Hello, everyone. Welcome. I love this. Just looking at everyone who's logging in. So many people. We got Charles from Zim. Is it Petlos from Joburg? Saw another gentleman or person from Malawi. There we go. So this is really, really awesome. And I'm loving this poll as well. If we look at that, 60% of the runners today are novices. So that's awesome. And then up to 19% have done 3 to 9. So excellent. Really, really looking forward to this evening again. So welcome, and let's just get straight into it if we can. All right, keep those welcomes coming if you want to, and yeah, we'll use that to answer some questions later as well. Just a welcome. I am not Brad Nadalt, okay? That is not me. Brad was supposed to be hosting today. His daughter was playing a netball match and broke her ankle, so Brad's had to rush off to the hospital. So I am stepping in. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Shona Hendricks. I work here at CoachPerry.com. I am the head of the female athlete plan, also head of the strength and conditioning side of things, and work very closely with Linz from a coaching perspective as well. So yeah, that's not me running London. That was Brad just finishing his London Marathon this year. Let me introduce the rest of the panel. So I'm just going to be managing things and facilitating everything here for us today. As you all know, or if you don't know yet, the official Comrades coach, Lindsay Perry. For the past 15 years, Lindsay has been coaching amateur and professional athletes to some of the world's most prestigious races. He's led teams to the Commonwealth Games as well as the Olympic Games. Not too shabby a runner himself. He has a marathon PR of 2:45 and a Comrades PB of 7:11. So welcome to you, Linz. You want to just say how's it there to everyone?
Yeah, how's it? Very exciting. We are just about into the last month, so really much looking forward to tonight and helping everyone sharpen their blades over the last 4 weeks.
Awesome. Thanks, Linz. Also with us this evening is Sifiso Ngoma. Sifiso is the marketing coordinator for the Comrades Marathon. He has been MC of the Stomp. He has been the MC of the Stomp Awards in Cape Town. He's assistant race director for the Pietermaritzburg City Marathon, and he's also the race director of the Green Trail Run. So welcome to you, Sifiso. You're going to take us through some Comrades aspects. Maybe, yeah, if you want to also say hi. You are muted. Just make sure.
Oh, thank you so much, Shona. Welcome to everyone. You'll be hearing a little bit from me. I do not have so much to say, but to encourage you to just take on a little bit of precautions and also assist on our charities. But you'll be hearing from me soon. Thank you.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much. And then we have a special guest with us this evening, Mac Khoza. Mac is a born and bred Durbanite. So all of you are from Durban in South Africa. That's awesome. He's a husband, father, and an effervescent human being. I love that. Passionate about people, their stories and developments, social impact, property, and business. And he's obsessed with self-improvement, essentially to be healthy in all aspects. And as a result, a better individual for his community. So welcome to you, Mac. Really excited to have you here as well.
Thank you very much, Shona, for having me, and Coach Perry team and Comrades. It's such an honor being here.
Awesome. Good stuff. All right. So let's just get started. Let me just go through what we're going to cover tonight. We're going to go through the finish venue, where hopefully you'll be finishing nice and strong and collecting your medal. We're going to talk a little bit about the expo, the official charities, what you need to be focusing on for the next 4 weeks, really crunch time from here, and what is needed. The Comrades long run, using those learnings and how we take that forward, taper and injuries, and then we're going to have that special story from Mac Khoza. So, yeah, there we go. I'm going to hand over to Sifiso. He's going to take us away. Guys, just before I do that, please ask questions if you want. Pop them in the chat. I will flag them for the panel, and then later on we'll do an extensive Q&A after all the presentations as well. All right. Thank you, Sifiso. You can take it away.
Thank you so much, Shona. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again. My name is Sifiso, as Shona has introduced me. I'll just have a few reminders and also some tips how you can assist us raise some funds for our charities. But before I begin with my presentation, a quick reminder: we are exactly 1 month away from race day. We are 31 days away from the race. The race is on 11 June 2023. It's a down run. Again, we will be starting in Pietermaritzburg, finishing 12 hours later in Durban at Kingsmead Stadium. Most people have been confused or asking, why are we doing double down run? It's quite simple. Some years back, or in 2010, just during the World Cup, we had double up run because there were a lot of festivities happening around Durban. Then we couldn't do the down run on the tier. So we are putting the race back in sync, the number of down runs and up runs in sync. Traditionally, as most of you will know, Comrades Marathon is a very traditional and heritage-orientated race. We have our down runs as odd numbers and up runs as even numbers. So that's what we are essentially doing with this double down run. The race will start normally at 5:30 a.m. on the day as usual. As I've mentioned again, we are finishing this year at Hollywood Bets, Kingsmead Stadium. They came with a bit of a change on the distance. Some of you will know the stretch between Kingsmead and Moses Mabhida at about plus 2.2 around about 2.5 kilometers. So for those who were doing down run last year, they will get it discounted this year with a couple of kilometers and couple of meters. So the official distance for this year is 87.701 kilometers. And there are some route changes from the start as well as down around Durban. So from the start, those who were doing the race last year know the race went out of Pietermaritzburg through freeway. So we have cut that out. We're gonna just go through inside a town and not go towards freeway, and then cut through and join the famous Comrades route towards Mkondeni. Those are the few route changes. Also on the cutoff point have some changes. We are finalizing how it's whereabouts is each cutoff point is at how many kilometers. We will be posting out on our socials, so stay tuned to get those details. However, we have already broadcasted our cutoff times and cutoff points. Where are they? The highlights of the Comrades Marathon, there are three things. Before the race, we have the official expo, which will be taking place at Durban Exhibition Center. And that's where the official registration is for those who are running. So the running community has been very excited with us going back to Durban Exhibition Center, simply because we, with the experience we had last year at ICC, we really were not spoiled with space. So most people did not really enjoy the experience of our expo. However, this year we have went back to a much bigger and better venue. So make sure you do attend our expo at Durban Exhibition Center and ask your family members or friends to come and check it out. It is quite a big expo. It's one of the biggest running expo related in Africa and in the world. For those who are in companies that are looking at exhibiting at Comrade Expo, I have just a few packages around there. A stand which is a 3x3 square meter in the middle. Stand start around 17,700 and going up, depending where you are and on the placement of your stand. So those are the packages. Other than that, if you wish to contact us or you wish to exhibit on Comrade Expo, you can contact or email lazel@hgexpo.co.za. The expo will be opening on Thursday, first day at 10 a.m. We will be closing at 7 p.m. On Friday, we will be opening at 9 a.m., closing at 7 p.m. And the last day of the expo, Saturday, we will be opening at 9 a.m. and closing much earlier at 4 p.m. And we will then head to get ready for the big day, which is the race day. As I've mentioned, I think one of the most important thing about Comrades Marathon is its official charity program, which is a Mapidi. This was established in 1996, and over the years we have raised over 62 million rand through the help of the runners and just private donors. So there are 3 ways you can assist Comrades Marathon official charities. One is to sign up for Race for Charity, or you can make a donation with your entry. And the last one is by entering the Toyota Win a Car competition. So what we do to assist runners is between the beginning of the year up until we close the period or the qualifying period, we reserve a number of 500 entries for runners. And those runners need to raise a minimum of 6,000 rand each. The date was actually to May, and we extended that date to 5 May last week, which was last week Friday. So for someone who was raising funds for our charities and have raised a minimum of 6,000 rand, they get to improve their seeding to C badge, regardless of their qualifying time. I must also note, even if you are running for one of our charities, you still need to do a sub 450 qualifying time on a marathon in order for us to allow you to run. And hopefully everyone has also updated their qualifying time, because that has been closed since last week Friday. And if you have not updated your qualifying time, I'm gonna say this with a smile. You'll be smiling, sitting on your couch and watching the race on TV on the 11th of June. These are our 5 official charities: Community Chest, Wild Trust, Rise Against Hunger, Hillcrest Aid Center, and Chalk. So these are the charities where you can choose to raise funds for. To raise funds for these charities, all you need to do is, if you have a Comrades app, if you go to sign in and go to your profile, or else you can just go directly to Comrades Marathon and comrades.com and click on sign in and log into your profile. Or alternatively, just go directly to easyreg.co.za and log into your profile. Once you log into your profile, you'll be asked your email and the password you created when you were making your entry. Then you scroll down under your dashboard and click on Join Race for Charity. Once you click on Join Race for Charity, you will be required to fill in a few details, which will be you can put up your profile picture. Select the charity that you wish to raise funds for amongst the 5 that I've just mentioned, and then you can write a short story why you have chosen that charity to raise funds for, or why is it close to your heart. And then the last thing will be for you to select your target or set your target. Targets can change at any time. There is no shame in raising less than what you have actually hoped to achieve. Some people have targets of up to 500,000. We currently have a guy who's sitting at plus 400,000 at the moment. His target is 500,000. So you can put in any amount that is attainable or that you think you can be able to achieve. So as I've mentioned, these are the things that you will need to fill in. Profile picture. This is the outlook of where you where you need to sign up for charity. And then one last thing, when you are signing up, you have an option to choose whether you want the charity that you are raising funds for to contact you or not. I always advise people that they choose yes, so that the charity can assist you in one way or the other with your fundraising, because they do contact people who are raising funds for them, and also to send personally a thank you message for assisting them with with fundraising for them. Once we have finished that step, it takes up to 10 minutes for your profile to get complete. Then your name will appear on Comrades website under Race for Charity. So what will appear is your name, your picture, the charity you are raising funds for, your target, and the amount that you have raised funds for. As you can see on the picture there, the first person at the top, the target was 22,000 when we were making this, and he had already raised 20,900. And also, I think there is a person who had 6,000 as his target, and then he has Nicholas, who have went over and above what he has actually thought he will achieve. And then the last phase to assist our charities is the Win a Car competition. Our sponsor gave us a brand new Toyota Corolla Quest. On race day, we have a draw. In order to enter this competition, there are two ways. It's either you can buy a ticket directly from Comrades website. The ticket is 50 Rand. You can buy as many tickets as you wish. Or also you can get a ticket from our charities or at the expo. We do have a charity expo stand, a charity stand at the expo. Then you can get those physical tickets there. On race day, the draw is at 4:45 in the afternoon. If you are still running, if you are a sub 12, there is no need to worry that you will not be considered on the competition. If we have drawn your ticket, we will contact you after the race, and then we will make arrangements together with Toyota to get the vehicle to you or to the closest dealership where you can fetch it. That's it from me tonight. Let us all make every kilometer count by fundraising for one of our Comrades official charities. You can also follow us on those social media platforms mentioned there: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and also on LinkedIn. We are available. Thank you so much.
Safisa, let me just make sure. There we go. I'm good. Safisa, before you away, if I can just ask one of the questions that came up in the chat there. It's from Kanya. Kanya's asking, will there be transport from Durban to PMB for the runners the morning of the race? And if so, I'm assuming, I know last year they bought the tickets at the expo. Maybe if you can just elaborate on that before you run away.
Yes, that is correct. We will have transport from 2 a.m. I think up until latest is 4. Tickets will be available at the expo. I think also maybe in a week time, we will also have tickets online on our website, if you check our website, but we will definitely post on our socials once we have that ready, but we are developing that system.
Excellent. Awesome. Thank you, Safiso. Thank you for that. Guys, Safiso will be around and he can also answer some questions in the chat if there's anything that hasn't been answered. Let me hand over to the head coach. And then, we can take it from there. Let me just make sure Lindsay is around, and then we look forward to what he has to say. Second last webinar, Lindsay. I'm sure everyone's getting nice and nervous, so I'm going to hand over to you, and you can take it over.
Yeah, look, 4.5 weeks to go. The reality is that the bulk of the work is done, but we're still just far enough away that things can go wrong. And that's precisely why we are here, is to try and make sure things do not go wrong. So what we really want is for everybody to experience what it is like to be a part of Comrades. I'm so stoked that we've got over 140 novices on tonight. That is really fabulous. So many people that are going to experience their first Comrades. And of course, we want you to finish. That is really important. Of course, some of you will have dreams of winning one day, but that's really what Comrades is about. We want you to start the race, but much, much more important than starting the race is we want you to finish the race. And literally, that is what the last 5 webinars have been about. We've done ladies webinars, we've done novice webinars, we've done general webinars, and here we are with a little over 4.5 weeks to go, and one more webinar to come after this. So we will focus on race day specifically in that final webinar. But again, just to remind everybody of the task at hand. And of course, we now have the official distance measured. We know we're going to Kingsmead, as Safisa pointed out. He told you the distance is 87.701, which means it is a full 2.5 kilometers shorter than last year in August, which is also a bonus. It gives many, many more people the opportunity to both finish the race and to run the time that they are targeting. Okay, so we are going to focus literally on where we should be now and what we are going to focus on, and essentially where 95% of the field should be is that you have just done your long training run. And so we are going to focus a little bit on that. But again, I've put this slide up in every single presentation that I've done this year, because I really want to draw everyone's attention to point 2 there. And that is that 64% of the people who don't finish Comrades started with an injury. Okay. So yes, there are people who don't prepare well. Cramp gets to a couple of people, but really the biggest percentage there is injury. And that is what we absolutely want to avoid in these next 4.5 weeks. Okay, so hopefully everybody has pretty much done their long run this past weekend, or the weekend before. So my preferred time for the long run, as I said, for 95% of the field, everybody who's running effectively slower than 7.5 hours, is to have done that long run 5 weeks before. So really what you've got to do once you've done that long run is sit down and have a look at it and go, right, how did the long run go? Okay, and it's going to be on a broad spectrum. I've got people that I work with personally. Some of them, the long run went so well they couldn't actually believe it. And there were some people that were more tired than we would have liked them to have been. But that's why it's important to look at how did my long run go, because that also has to inform a little bit what we're going to do over the next 4 weeks and how we're going to adapt the training over the next 4 weeks. Okay. If it went really, really well, you felt great, it was super easy, you did it at the right pace, and in the next 2 to 3 days, you felt no stiffness, everything felt cool, then you can afford to press your training on a little bit longer. You're not going to do more or push harder, but it means that you really can extend that training for another 10 days or so. If you are absolutely shattered and you struggled and you're tired, you got the distance, you were surprised that you could maintain your pace, but you really didn't feel good doing it, that's a great sign for your fitness, but a bad sign for your freshness. And so you do want to spend this week really recovering, and then you are just going to focus on keeping moving and staying consistent in those last 4.5 weeks. Okay. You need to make a list. Okay. So now that you've done this long run, the shoes that you used, the socks that you used, the running kit that you used, the nutrition that you used, any plasters, the cap that you used that was comfortable, suntan lotion, lubrication, everything that you used and everything that worked for you, you need to put down on a list. And then what is hopefully a very short list is that what can you change? What do you urgently need to try and do differently? So if you used a particular gel and that made you feel sick, you've only got maybe 2 more opportunities to try something different before you get to race day. So that is that long run is there to build confidence. It's as our final dress rehearsal for the big day, and for us to know what really works well and what didn't work, so we can just tweak a few things before we get there. And that list is really important. I'm going to talk about it a lot in the next webinar, but the list that you've made is everything that you need to take with you to Durban if you don't live in Natal, and everything that you are going to just need for race day if you do live in the towel. Okay. Effectively, we have started to taper. Okay, so everyone is talking about the taper, but once you've done the long run, we are effectively in taper because our long runs are going to come down. As I said a few minutes ago, if you felt super strong, it was super easy, everything went absolutely 100% according to plan, then you can afford to keep your Mondays to Fridays pretty stable, what you've been doing, and bring those long runs down. If you were very tired, this week in particular, we want to do a recovery week, and then next week you'll do another normal week before in the final 2.5 weeks you take a really, really sharp taper. It's so important. The taper is critical because it's going to give you that final boost that's going to take your fitness and your strength that you built up over the last 6 months and layer on top of that freshness that's going to see you get at least 20 Ks longer than your longest run before you really start to feel the effects of doing an ultra. And that's why the taper is so important. It brings freshness. Any little niggles that you're carrying, anything that's a little bit sore but it hasn't stopped you from training, those kind of things are going to clear up completely. What do I mean when I say not too much in terms of the taper? Well, that means that in these last 4 weeks, you want to try and avoid doing nothing. However, especially in the last 3 weeks, your mantra needs to be that the session that you don't do can't hurt you. So what do I mean by that? I mean that sometimes we wake up and we're not feeling good, or we're feeling really tight and stiff, or we've got a little bit of a niggle, we saw, and 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, it may have been okay to go for a run and see how it feels. No, it's getting worse. Stop. Now that is not the case. Now it's like, actually, something's not feeling 100% right. I'm going to take an extra day or an extra 2 days off because I want to make sure I don't get injured now, because with 64% of people who start, 64% of the people who don't finish start with an injury. Keep remembering that. If something's sore, give it a day or two. Okay. For those people that found something that didn't quite work in their long run, but now you find something in these next 2 weeks, which is really your opportunity to find a new gel, try a new pair of socks. If for whatever reason your shoes have unfortunately just gone too far past, then those need to be changed and updated now in these last 2 weeks. Then you're going to update your list that you made so that you make sure that on your list is everything that you need when you get to Durban. Okay, that's all really important. I want to just touch quickly on a couple of the very common injuries that in particular novice runners get, because look, a lot of novices for Comrades are not just novices to Comrades, they're novices to running. So these overuse injuries are fairly common. And I just want you to be aware of what they are, particularly in this last period where many of you have probably run your longest run that you have ever run. And there is a risk of some of these injuries. Okay, so if you have sore shins or shin splints, please don't worry about the training that you're going to miss in the next few days. If you have sore shins and shin splints, by using ice and applying some compression and giving yourself 3 to 5 days of rest, you will probably avoid them becoming an issue, and there'll be a good chance that you can then line up pain and injury free. Okay, I would probably go and see a physiotherapist too, because if you can just knock that inflammation on its head, then you are done. It's much harder to rehab. 4.5 weeks to go. Rehab can still make a difference. You just have to be careful, particularly if you haven't been doing strength training, that you overdo it. Okay. In 4 weeks, you can make a big difference to your strength. So you can still start strength training, but it's got to be at quite an entry level. Okay. So that's important. Patellofemoral pain or knee pain, very common. and often a warning sign of needing new shoes, or if you've done your long run in a new place, or if you've gone down to Durban to do the route tester and the camber on there maybe has upset the knee. But that's normally a patella tracking issue. You normally want to do some work on your quads, stretching your quads gently, maybe some foam rolling on your quads, some very simple strength moves like single leg squats and step ups on a low step, both of them body weight. Very careful with the movement so that you don't, and it must be pain free. Sorry, that was the word I was looking for, that you want to do that with pain free movement. And often, particularly through this very intense phase of training that we've been through, you might have very tight, stiff, sore glutes. Okay, very important to make sure those are released, activated, and doing their job. So again, some very basic strength movements can just make sure that those glutes are firing and go a long way to helping with patellofemoral knee pain. Okay, iliotibial band syndrome, super common. On the side of the knee, it's one of the most common novice running injuries. We've had loads of people on the website coming and talking to us and speaking to us. Okay, it's not one that responds well to rest. By that, I don't mean if it's very sore that you mustn't rest at all. But what I'm saying is you can't only rest and expect it to get better. So iliotibial band syndrome, if you've got ITB now, you have to strengthen your glutes and you must stretch your hip flexors. So the muscles in the front of your leg, right at the top. Those get very tight because we spend so much of our days sitting at tables, driving cars. So stretch the hip flexors, strengthen the glutes. Few days off, but as soon as you start with the strength and the stretching, you should be able to just maintain some consistency and keep yourself moving. And then we move into your more kind of serious tendinopathies, Achilles, glutes, hamstring. That can sometimes get aggravated because we are working so hard on hill training and getting strong for hills, and that does place, especially on our glutes and our hamstring and our Achilles tendons, it does place stress on there. So if any of those things are hurting, if you've got anything at the attachment, either up just under the bum, around the side, down towards the heel, if those things are hurting, you need to rest and get yourself to a physio. Get those treated. Make sure that they don't develop into something that's going to linger. 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 days right now, and then just some consistent training to keep you ticking over to Comrades, and starting pain-free is going to be the most important thing from here to Comrades. It's getting to the start line injury-free. Okay. So don't wait, act now. I think that's really the sum of it. If you are sore, hit the rice. Rest. Use ice to control the elevation. Put on compression socks and compression sleeves. Keep your feet up above your hips as much as you can. That'll drain out that inflammation. And in 2 to 3 days, if you haven't seen noticeable improvement, if you aren't in the clear, then get yourself to a physio. And once treated and the inflammation is dealt with, you just want to do this safe progression. Build up slowly. We're in the last 4 weeks. So if you do 45 to 60 minutes, 3 to 4 times a week, you're not going to lose any of your hard-earned fitness. Okay. But if you are injured, these are your steps so that you can really just get yourself to the start of the race, maintaining your fitness, but very importantly, making sure that you start pain-free. Okay. 64% of the people who start with an injury don't finish. That's an important thing to remember. Okay. Right. So that's it for the formal part. 4 more weeks to go. I don't know if there's a couple of questions you want to jump into now, Shona, or if we just kick those all to the end.
Good question, Linz. Let me have a quick look, because there were 1 or 2 specifically around taper that I think would be good, because you were talking about the taper. And Shoni is saying, How important are the runs in the last week before Comrades? I normally like to stop running completely the Wednesday before. I see many training programs still have a short 20 to 30-minute run right or the day before.
Yeah, so Anthony, that's a fabulous question. The taper really is, it's not, I want to say it's one of the hardest things for a coach to get right with a new athlete, because that's the one area where we all respond so differently. So I like to do as little as possible while maintaining some movement. Okay? As soon as I stop exercising, things seize up, my back gets sore. So those are the kind of things that you learn about yourself as a person. So typically when someone asks me that question, the advice that I normally give them is this. If you normally feel really amazing the day after a rest day, then you are going to be better off doing less in that final week. But if you're someone who doesn't feel really good the day after rest, so always after a rest day, that first run back, you're fine, but it takes you a little bit of time to find your groove. Then you're the kind of person that should probably look to do 15 to 20 minutes of something easy, some stretching and mobility. But yeah, I mean, my training partner of almost 15 years now, it doesn't matter whether it's a marathon or an ultra. I mean, he trains like crazy hard, but the Sunday before the race is pretty much the last time that he runs before race day. So he rocks in there fresh, and I've never seen him mess a race up. So yeah, I think and the point is that he's learned that about himself, and other people even need a little bit of like pickups. So even just a little bit of jogging makes them really feel lethargic and stiff and sore. But my mantra again is, when in doubt, leave it out. Always in the final week, less is going to be more, because you can't hurt yourself unless you're Lindsay Parry and your back seizes up because you're not doing anything. But that's it. I literally do as little as possible. My longest run in the week leading into a race will be 5 kilometers, and I typically do 2 of those. So you've
Perfect.
just got to
maybe
learn yourself.
Just in case everyone didn't see my answer to Simon, because Simon asked around strength training, and so I did just say to him that definitely you need to taper your strength training leading into the race as well. So definitely no strength in race week, and then between 10 to 12 days prior to race day would be my last strength session. I would recommend definitely with that. Okay. All right. And then, sorry, last question is, a couple of people are still doing their 50 to 55K run this weekend coming. Is that too late in the taper now? Is it too close as we're coming up to race day? Or is that still okay?
Yeah, so unless you're training for a silver, I would chop that down to 45K. It's 4 weeks out, very close to race day. And even more so if you've already done an ultra. So if you've done 2 oceans in particular, then this weekend I would be looking at 40 to 45 and not 50
Perfect.
to 55.
Awesome. Good. Linz, thank you so much. Guys, keep those questions coming. I see there are a few more while I've been asking those. So we will definitely get stuck into those in the Q&A afterwards. Let me call Mac on. So Mac, if you would like to put on your camera and unmute yourself, then we can introduce you, or we have introduced you already, but you can tell us a little bit about your story. I'm really looking forward to this. Lindsay did mention this to me in the week. So yeah, looking very forward to it. Yeah, just your camera, Mac, as well, if you don't mind. There we go. Awesome. Good. All right. I'm going to hand over to you, Mac, and you can take us away. If you just use the right arrow on your keyboard, that'll flick the slides. Okay. Awesome. Thanks, Mac.
Oh, perfect. Thanks, Shona. What I'm going to say is probably going to be a reiteration of what Coach Parry has said. But yeah, I've had a journey. I'm not an expert at Comrades, but I did do my first Comrades last year. So with those 60 novices that would be listening, I was in your shoes last year. I literally signed up to Coach Parry throughout the whole year, and I don't think I would have finished if I never had that information fed to me on a weekly, daily basis. Yeah, so my kind of as the screen would say, my kind of motto for my little session here is never give up, because I think we go through experiences which make us think that we can't do it. Even when we are running, we want to stop, but to not quit and to carry on taking that one step forward, I think is the secret from my viewpoint of actually qualifying and finishing Comrades. That being said, I've been asked a few questions, so I'll get right into it. The one was, what were my struggles in qualifying? Because so last year I had a really good qualification. I trained pretty much 3 months, and I qualified easy. This year I struggled to qualify. I did 3 marathons before my qualification. That's probably why. It actually is why. Meaning I ran a marathon out of having a vendetta. Last year I didn't finish the marathon, so this year I ran it saying, well, I'm going to show the marathon who's boss, kind of a thing. And I didn't plan on qualifying, so I just enjoyed the marathon, and I did 4:54. It was like, what, 4 minutes under qualification time. And I was happy with that because it was not my plan to qualify. In retrospect, I wish I actually planned to qualify then, because my body was fresh. So what happened was 2 weeks later, too soon, I signed up for another marathon, and basically my body just couldn't take me past 32 Ks. I finished the marathon, but I just couldn't, like it was too soon. I had not had enough rest, and it's not advisable to do that. And then the other reason why I believe I didn't qualify was that I tried on new shoes, and the recommendation we always get from Coach Barry is don't try new things on race day. And then I think the third reason, leading on to my 2 points above, is obviously because I had done Comrades the year before. I was overconfident, and obviously because I qualified before, I was overconfident, and I thought, oh, I've done this before. And meanwhile, I forgot to go back to the basics. And then the last reason was that I ran somebody else's plan. Like, for instance, the one marathon, I got to a bus and I panicked, and I said, let me stick to the bus. And when the bus was going up and down, I couldn't run their plan, and I couldn't get back to my plan. So I think stick to your plan, and your plan with the pace would get you there with the training, with no injuries. Yeah, so those were my struggles and why I struggled to qualify. The second question I got asked was, what did I change? The way that I would phrase that question would be, what did I learn about myself? And what did I analyze through my failed attempts, so that I could try again? So yeah, I think it's so counterintuitive, but rest. Yeah, I needed to rest more. So I decided, okay, I'm not going to give up, but I'm going to prioritize rest. I'm going to prioritize nutrition, and I'm going to prioritize just the mental attitude of not quitting. And I will try again. And I think I gave it 3 weeks after that, and I did the one in Nullspread. I went all the way to Nullspread to qualify this year. But basically, what I changed was I went back to basics, meaning, yes, consistent running, short mileage, not overexerting, strength training, and resting, nutrition, and just having that attitude to not give up and to try again. The third question I got asked was, what are my goals? What are my goals? What are my goals before these 4 weeks of Comrades? And I'm going to reiterate this again. It seems like I've been saying it all the time. My goals are to rest. Less is more, as Coach Barry did say. So as usual, strength training during the week, 1 or 2 or 3 at max runs, short runs during the week, 1 long run in the weekend. And at this stage, I think the last, with my running club, Stella, we're doing a 40K this weekend. and that's also me just pushing it, but it's just me tapering from here on. Meaning from here on, I think weekends are going to be 30 Ks less, 25 Ks less. But during the week, just to be consistent, it'll be a 5K, 10K, 8K, and strength training, and then rest intermittently throughout the week, nutrition intermittently throughout the week. Those are my goals. My goals is to rest, is to do strength training so that my body can withhold the pain, and to do short, consistent runs. So my long run was a week and a half ago. I was a bit adventurous, and I did a 100K trail run in the Drakensberg because someone has to do it. So I decided to do it. And I had a really good time. And I think I've overexerted myself in terms of mileage. So therefore, I'm just going to calm down and relax and work my plan. I'm so glad that Comrades is 2.2 Ks less, because I could beat my previous time of last year simply by sticking to the same pace. Yeah, that's quite cool. The other question I asked is, what do I do to calm my nerves down before race day or before Comrades? I simply just trust my training. I trust the work and the training that I've put in. I trust the process, and I've done the mileage, so I don't need to overexert myself and try to do something that I have not done before. So I just trust the training. You've put in the effort. Most of the mileage is done. It's literally, you're at the peak now. You're going towards the bottom. So it should be getting less strain on your body, and your body should be getting into a stage of basically just recovering and forming strength into those muscles. Relying on that previous mileage. And then, on the day, it's simply just to enjoy. Be present, know your plan, and enjoy the day. Okay. And then race day. What was the special moments that I will treasure forever? Due to listening to Coach Parry during my training last year, what was special for me was that I had a lot of supporters, and some of them were stressed that I wasn't going to make it, but I had my time, and I was on time, and I managed it without a lot of effort, as I would have thought it would have been. So it was not hard. I did a slow, easy pace. I preserved my energy till I got to Hillcrest. And when I got to Hillcrest, I analyzed myself. I said, could I go faster? Could I not? Could I go not? And I couldn't go faster, because if I went faster, it seemed as if a cramp was coming. So then I stuck to my pace, and that pace was what I stuck to, which was a 7:20, until I got to the finish. And I was comfortable. I was even socializing on the way, so I just stuck to it. And then I ran my plan. I ran my plan. I didn't run anyone else's. Buses went past me. The last bus went past me. Obviously, a bus has its own plan. They might say it's a 12-hour bus, but meanwhile, the driver's plan is to get there at 11:30 or 11:20. It's still under 12 hours. So he knows that. I don't. And so it becomes a bit challenging to run with the bus. And unless you know them well, I wouldn't do that. But if you guys have a good relationship with buses, drivers, and know how they run, you could do that. The other special moments was the support from my family, my friends, my work colleagues, my property company I used to work for. And like the biggest part was running for Community Chest. So I run to raise funds. This year I'm running to raise funds again. Sfiso did say that, if you I'm going to use this moment, if you're not going to run to raise funds, donate. So donate to me, please. I'd love more donations to raise funds. Community Chest is an organization that helps communities, ECD schools, specifically kids, and they've been such good support for me, and they've given me so much purpose in my running, and they have given me a mission that is worth the pain that we endure while we run and while we train. That being said, I did say that I'm a new runner. But I do think it's important to reiterate again why Coach Perry says and Coach Shona and Brad and the team say what they say. For me, I try to pay more attention to that. And I think the stats were there. 64, 67% of people do not finish Comrades because of coming to the start line with injuries. So therefore, I run easy so that I can recover better. 1, 2, so that I don't get injuries. 3, so that I can improve my running economy. That's why I run easy. And I'm a slow runner, I consider myself. I know a lot of people that run fast, but that's for them. For me, I run easy so that I can improve my running economy, recover sooner so I can run again, and so that I don't get injured. And then I do strength training so that my body can withhold or can withstand the pounding that we're placing it under, because running on concrete is not necessarily the most easiest thing, or it's not necessarily a natural thing for our bodies to go through. So the why for me was why I finished Comrades. Basically, not getting to the start line with an injury and being rested and recovered well enough so that I can keep on running. I think that's pretty much my little bit on my Comrades experience. And I'd like to add and end by saying that you must run your run, never quit, because so last year I fell twice. I actually started this Comrades thing because I signed up for 2 Oceans, because it was on my birthday. I thought it was a great idea, and I ran 2 marathons before that, and I couldn't qualify. And somehow this never quitting mental attitude said to me, "Oh, sign up for Comrades." Otherwise, before then, I would have never signed up for Comrades. It was just I wanted to do 2 Oceans. I'd previously done a marathon, so 2 Oceans seemed like the next logical step. What happened in my brain for me to sign up for Comrades? I think just the adventurous part. But I signed up to Coach Perry, and I finished Comrades after failure. This year, I failed twice, as I mentioned you guys, to qualify. And the third time, I qualified. And after I qualified, I ran 100 kilometers in Drakensberg, which is the highest mileage I've ever done. So I think not taking failure as the end is kind of crucial to your success, I believe, because it's part of the process that actually adds more value to your success. It's part of the process to actually eventually do what you plan to do. So failure is part of the process, and I learned to use that and as part of training, and I keep going, and that's how I've landed up where I am. As I said, I'm not an expert at this, but I just keep going. So in a nutshell, guys, don't give up, run easy, rest, recover, enjoy the running process and the running journey. And it's a privilege for us to be able to run. When you run past Nchanga, you see all those kids there in their wheelchairs, and you get to realize that you're actually participating in something that other people wish they could. I have some friends that also have some disabilities, and they can't do what I can do. So if I can do what I can do by running and raising funds for Community Chest, I feel like it's my little bit in terms of helping others, and in terms of encouraging and inspiring others. But the last advice is listen to Coach Perry and team, pay attention to them in training, and you'll be fine. Yeah, that's about it. Thanks, Shona. I don't know if anyone has any questions.
Thank you for sharing your story there with us as well. Really, really awesome. And I hope some inspiration to some other of the many novices on the call. So thank you so much. There we go. Mac finishes with never give up, guys. So I think that can be a mantra for you. Write it on your arm. And we can take it from there. So thank you, Mac, for sharing your story. That's very, very cool. All right, question time, guys. So I will keep trying to flag some questions. Obviously, as we're going along, there are a few that have come up so far. So, Linz, if I can get you back on. I'll just want to scroll back down to the beginning. There were some cool questions that had come through. Sorry. There were a few questions around running shoes. So, and I've lost the one. So, Yingi Sani is asking, how long should one use their running shoes for? So what's the mileage? And there was another good question around buying new shoes now, going towards race day. What should be the advice on that perspective? Just you're muted, Linz.
Yeah, so there are two aspects to that. Exactly that. How long should a pair of shoes last for training, and then how many kilometers should be on a pair of shoes for a race? So for a race, much easier to answer. So a shoe is really at its absolute prime, roughly 150 to 2 kilometers of wear. So at 150 to 200 kilometers of wear, it's still got all of its cushioning properties. The sole has got very little wear on it, and your foot has really sunk into the inner sole really nicely, and your foot is shaped around it, and the materials have softened and become very nice and wearable. So that's the ideal. If you want to plan that in advance, you want a pair of shoes around about that 150 to 200 Ks. How often should you repair shoes? Look, strictly speaking, modern shoes are literally designed to go 600 to 800 kilometers, depending on if you are a smaller or heavier runner. But these things are expensive. And so I know that a lot of people try to squeeze 800 to 1,000 Ks out of them. And what I have found personally, and with quite a few of the people that I run with, is that we all have tells that our shoes are getting to the end of life. So as soon as I start getting tight calves, for example, then I know I need to go and replace my shoes. Some people will feel like a niggle in the shin or in their knee or something on their Achilles. But so we all have a tell that tells us, my shoes are getting to the edge of life. So a trick that I use to try and extend the life of my shoes a little bit is that once a shoe gets into the 650, 700 kilometer range, I stop using it on long runs, and then I'll only use it on short runs of like 8 to 12, 13 kilometers. And that's when I'll have a new pair of shoes, and the new pair of shoes I'll use for my runs that are 15 Ks and longer, essentially. And so that's one way that you can then shuttle a shoe along to try and get it to that 800, 900 kilometer mark. But yeah, that's the short answer is they really are designed for roughly 800 Ks, and you want 200 Ks just under.
Can someone buy?
And sorry, let me just also, if you are planning on racing in carbon shoes, then you're looking closer to 50 to 55 kilometers. So you want to run in them just enough that your foot settles into them, because those shoes are typically 200 to 400 kilometers.
Perfect. Thank you so much. That's cool. Lindsay, tons of questions around pacing. So obviously we don't want to go through each individual medal and how to pace it. Are we going to talk about that in the next webinar specifically, or maybe just give a general sort of outlook on, sorry, let me just say, because Paul's asking a good question here. Is it best to target even splits throughout, or so half time target time at halfway, or plan to go a bit slower in the second half? Maybe just as a general idea.
Yeah. So I mean, we even in the last one, we won't go into individual things. There are pacing charts at the expo that we sell for charity. So you get a physical pacing chart, and we also have a little pacing chart app on our website that you can go and use to give you an idea. But effectively, yes, it's close-ish to even split. The first half, it's not mathematical, it's traditional point, is 44, and the second half is 43.7. So slightly shorter in the second half than the first half, and all the downhill in the second half. Okay, so if you plug the Comrades route into an algorithm that only adjusts for gradients and not for and doesn't take any fatigue into account, you should be running the second half of Comrades about 11 minutes faster than the first half. We know that's not really going to happen, but a fairly close to even strategy is the right strategy. So you'll do the first 44 Ks in maybe 2-3 minutes at a push faster than even splits, and then that second half in 1 to 2 minutes slower. Then you've run a really, really, really good Comrades, and you can only do that if you give yourself the opportunity to do that. So over the 16 years or so that I've been the Comrades coach, I'm getting more and more and more people to actually believe it, and the people that try it are always amazed. And I don't want to say it's common, but I've had quite a few clients that have gone between 8 and 11 minutes faster in the second half. And it's really about giving yourself the opportunity to do that.
Awesome. Yep. That's excellent. Every time I go back here, I lose my questions. Question from Brendan Dunn. Nice to hear from you, Brendan. He is saying, sorry, now I need to find it again. My gosh. Sorry, Linz. Oh, there we go. He says, hey guys, I struggled with pain in my quads after both his heel last year. I've done much more strength training. Well done, Brendan, this time around, and I hope it'll help. What can I do physically and mentally on race day to mitigate or manage that pain when heading on the downs after when the fun starts?
So, yeah, look, I think you'll get sore later. I think that's one of the big things about strength training is that you get sore later, and also the more experience you have, that pain comes, but it comes later. Look, both this heel is quite early for it, and so what can I tell you about how to embrace it? I'm gonna give you a little talking to that I got from my dad. I can't remember exactly when it was, but it was after a couple of Comrades is that they were fine, but they weren't what I wanted. And I'm normally very good at, if I set a goal, I'm normally like within seconds of getting it, but I wasn't getting that at Comrades. And so I was running with my dad and I was like, I've tried this training and I've tried this training and I've tried this training, but I just keep getting to the same points at Comrades and I'm just so sore. And then, the last bit of the race is, and he's like, oh, yeah, like, and when does that happen? So I was like, yeah, somewhere around 65, 70 kilometers. And he goes, oh, yeah, no, that's, we used to say when we trained hard on a race Comrades, you say if you were only sore for 10 Ks that you had a really good Comrades. If you were sore for less than that, you had a great Comrades. And if you were sore for 30 Ks or more, then you had a bit of a Comrades. So I think really what my dad was telling me is that that's part of Comrades. It is a long way. If you're going to run it with a particular time in mind or to run it to the absolute best of your ability, whether that's an 11:55 or a 7:05, then that discomfort is going to come. And there are things that we do to mitigate and to push it out. And strength training is key in that. Preparing well is key in that. And having a good run-walk strategy is key in that. And one of the reasons why Comrades gets more sore than some other ultras is because you do long energy-sapping climbs that make your quads tired and then long destructive downs. And so that run-walk strategy must incorporate not letting your legs get too fatigued on the climbs so that you can use the downs and you don't do too much damage. So yeah, those are the kind of tips that I'll leave, and then to expect it. I think that's the other thing. And once I'd embraced that concept, the thing that I'm always pleasantly surprised with, even though I know it's going to happen because it's happened so many times now, is that you get to this point where you soar, then just focus on the next 2 or 3 kilometers. And what you'll notice is that although you are sore and uncomfortable, you haven't slowed down. So when you look at your splits, you go, but I'm still running what I'm supposed to be running. Of course, that's very hard to do for 40 Ks, but it's absolutely doable for 20 Ks. And that's what you are aiming to get yourself into, that last 15 to 22 kilometers, so that you can just, even though it's sore and uncomfortable, you just keep kilometer after kilometer, getting the time that you're after, getting the time.
Awesome. Thanks, Lindsay. And you mentioned the run walk strategy there, and this has come up a few times. So both Pilalani saying a comment on the run and walk strategy, please, and Grant as well. Can we have an example of a good run walk strategy? You've spoken of it often, but not 100% sure if I'm understanding it fully.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so Grant, I've got a sliding scale, in Pilalani. I use a sliding scale to simplify it. The key thing before I go into that is that you've got to select a strategy that feels right and comfortable for you. Okay. So what do I mean by that? I mean, like, for a lot of people, if I had to tell you to run 6 minutes, walk 1 minute, you'd be like, geez, conceptually it can't work for you, because it just, but if I tell you run 6Ks and walk 1 minute, that goes, okay, that's almost like I've done a bit of work. Now I'm going to get a bit of rest/recovery. And so my sliding scale really is that for the kind of 11, 12-hour runner is to have a run 3Ks, walk 1 minute. So essentially every water point to just have a 30-second to 1 minute walk break. And then moving all the way across to the silver guys, where I have them on like a 9 kilometer. So every third water station, run 9Ks, walk 1 minute. Your Bill Rowan guys are probably on a six run. I'd put Robert Machali and Bill Rowan around about the same, 6 minutes, run 6Ks, walk 1 minute. Okay. And then on the hills, and you'll feel them. It's not difficult to figure this out. It's like when you're on a hill where you can literally feel this one is charring my quads, then just slide yourself into a run walk strategy. And again, for me, at the back of the pack, I work on a fairly 1-to-1 ratio. So 1 minute run, 1 minute walk, 1 minute run, 1 minute walk. And if you do that right from the beginning of the race, then you get over the hills fairly quickly, number one. And number two, you aren't that tired. If you don't do that and you try and run too much of the hills in the early part of the race, you get to a point where you're walking whole hills in the second half of the race. And even though those hills are shorter, and even though they're fewer in that second half, those long walks, they cost you rhythm. When you want to get going again, it's much more difficult. So again, for the 12 hours, like probably a 1-to-1 ratio. For your Robert Machali, Bill Rowan around there, we're looking at like run 2 minutes, walk 1 minute. And then again, when we get to the front end of the race, your 8 hour, 7.5, 7 hour runners will then look at probably taking strategic short walk breaks on those bigger climbs. Like, I mean, I know the climbs quite well, so it's not fair, but coming out of halfway at Drummond, for example, I would probably have 2 walks of 30 seconds to a minute on that 6K stretch. But yeah, that gives you a really good idea of how to implement
awesome,
those run
good stuff.
walks.
Linz, with winter coming, especially in the southern hemisphere at least, a couple of people are probably going to start picking up some colds and flus. Susan asked here, I got a sinus infection this week, so I'm resting this whole week. What should I focus on going forward? How much training is too much to lose before the race? And then just in line with that, Nicole as well, what are your suggestions about picking up training again after a week of illness and no training? I know you've said not to catch up missed runs, but I have concerns about missing the last few long runs ahead of race day.
So look, you've both done the right thing for a start by letting yourself get better, okay? Because illness is a stress, training is a stress, and with the two of them operating at the same time, all you're going to do is delay your getting healthy and potentially making yourself even sicker. Okay, then part 2 of the question is how much running can you afford to miss? Okay, so what we know from research that's been repeated 2 or 3 times in the past is that you'll lose absolutely nothing in a week. You will lose very little in 2 weeks, and in fact, the freshness by a long way outstrips the loss in fitness. And it's when you start getting into week 3 that the loss, and that's week 3 of nothing. Okay, it's not if it's 3 weeks of nothing, that's where you start to have significant losses of fitness. Okay, so back to this scenario is that if you're completely asymptomatic, you're feeling quite good, then you can return to normal training quite quickly. I would stay away from high intensity training, particularly if you had an upper respiratory tract, so the sinuses or anything to do with the chest and throat. Stay away from the high intensity. You can go back to normal training. You can perhaps do a slightly longer run this weekend than is on the plan, but you're not going to try and make up for a lost 50K or lost 55K. So you would maybe do 36 to 40 kilometers as an example. But yes, you can return to normal volume, keeping it really easy, and literally wouldn't worry about having missed just that 1 week. If that's all you miss, you will have lost basically
100%.
nothing.
Michael was also asking this question. Similar, he says he struggles with neck pain and it becomes headaches, and was asking around pain medication. And Leandre is saying, why should one avoid taking medication in the race? And there was another question as well around anti-inflammatories. Is taking a pain medication going to have a very serious side effect? And why do we say, not to take pain medication during Comrades?
So the most important thing is that if you're going to take anything, you need to be doing that in conjunction with medical advice. Okay, so if you're going to take anything, you must chat to a doctor. I've actually, again, recently been talking to a doctor for some stuff for myself, and he just reiterated to me again just how dangerous anti-inflammatories in particular are. So a painkiller is probably okay, but I would never prescribe it. So please just make sure you do that under medical supervision. First thing. The second thing is, if the doctor tells you can take 1 or 2, whatever the number is he tells you or she tells you, that's what you take with you. You don't take a rack of 12, because that's like telling a student, here's a case of beer for you to take to the party, but I only want you to drink 2 because you've got to drive home tonight. Okay, so you don't send the student to a party with a case of beer. You don't go to Comrades with a rack of anything. So if you are chatting to a doctor, it's 1 or 2. Like I've heard doctors saying for certain things, you have 1 at 30, 1 at 60, whatever. But what you don't do is take anti-inflammatory. So, and the reason, in a nutshell, it's actually quite simple, is that when we are exercising, one of the things that happens is that we have vasoconstriction of the capillaries in our kidneys. Okay, so in response to dehydration. So we have that vasoconstriction, and anti-inflammatories also cause vasoconstriction. So we've already compromised the blood supply in the kidneys when we are dehydrated, and when you exercise, you are dehydrated. So when you take an anti-inflammatory, you make that worse, and that can compromise renal function, and that can send you into renal failure. So that's why you don't take anti-inflammatories. And the doctor that I spoke to, he works at the Comrades Medical Tent. He has for years, and because of that he's probably going to be doing a PhD as part of that. And he said, so many people that we see that end up in the medical tent, they are in early stage renal failure because of anti-inflammatories. So that's the reason why.
Yeah, just quickly, I read a story once, this is ages ago when I started at the university, around exactly this thing. And this guy he wrote a very honest story around how he had taken some anti-inflammatories during the race, and how he landed up in hospital with renal failure, and he's lucky to be alive, essentially. And he quite humorously almost says at the beginning, when he landed up at the medical tent, the nurse or sister asked him how many anti-inflammatories did he take. He had taken 1 almost every hour up until that point. And so he was like, oh, I better not tell the nurses. So he lied, and he said, no, I've only taken 3. And the nurse already was like, oh my God, you've taken 3. Let's rush you to, and he said that was the moment that hit him, where he was like, oh my word, I really have messed up here. So yeah, it's not just something where we're like, oh, don't, it's not just us just making up stories. It is definitely the case. So, Linz, maybe two more questions, if that's cool with you. How you for time? Just last two sort of questions. Cool.
Yeah, I'm happy
Okay,
to run up to
Oh,
8:30.
awesome. Okay,
No
excellent.
problem.
Then
So,
let's go for it. A couple of people are asking, so I'll just pick the one here. Sean, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Saying, how long is the longest run we should be doing in the last 4 weeks? So from now till Comrades, what is the longest sort of run that people should be doing?
So the longest run you should be doing is 30 kilometers. Okay. So I'm linking that to now a question that was asked earlier is what happens if I've missed on my long run? I was planning on doing 50 to 55 Ks. Okay. So the longest run you should do, 30 kilometers in the last 4 weeks. The longest run you can do, 45 kilometers in the final 4 weeks. Yeah, and again, I would only do that in if there's circumstances that make it beneficial, and that is I did 56 Ks on the weekend of Two Oceans. 3 weeks later now, I'm going to top up with a 40 to a 45. Or there's been no opportunities for me for safety reasons or because of injury, but you're completely fine now. So there's like real reasons why you haven't done a long run in the previous 5 weeks, then 45 kilometers. But otherwise,
100%. Cool. Maud was asking around, I guess it touches on the pacing stuff, but how, when should she be running with a bus or rather on her own? When is it best to do either or?
That's a really cool question. I know it'll come up again in the next webinar, but that's fine. I think repetition is good in these kind of things. So fabulous question. Okay. So buses are nice on one hand because you are with someone who's experienced and they take a lot of the thinking out of it. Okay. There are a few big warning signs though. You need, before I blindly trust someone who's going to take control of my race, and especially something as important as Comrades, and particularly on the 12-hour side where if you get it wrong, there's a risk of not finishing, is I want to know what that person's plan is, okay? You are going to lose, in the 12-hour bus, you're going to lose a lot of time when you cross that start line. How quickly is your bus driver planning on catching up that 10 minutes? That's the most important question you can ask that bus driver. And Mac, I mean, he hopefully he's still there, but Mac will tell you that he got passed by so many buses at the beginning, and initially it freaked him out a little, but he just was like, no, this is the way I'm supposed to run the race. So I'm going to finish my answer. I'm going to just quickly ask Mac to jump in and tell you from his side. But the other problem with a bus is that the 11-hour and the 12-hour bus sometimes have more than 1,000 runners in them. So the other issue that you have if you're in a bus is it can be very difficult to get the nutrition you need from the water tables because you can't get to them. Okay, so my advice to you, if you are running in a bus, is that these tables are long. So as you approach the table, people will go. Get yourself funneled out the other side and then go to the tables towards the end of the water tables. But that's your other big problem with buses, is getting the nutrition that you need. Where I will tell you a bus is fantastic is in the last 30. So when you know that if I just hang on to this person, do what they tell me, keep on moving, then you will get to your goal. So that's the part where I love the camaraderie. You'll have people around you, they'll help you, they'll take you on, they'll tell you stories, they'll distract you from what you're going through. So that is where the bus is powerful, is in the final third. In the first 2/3, you really want to stick to your plan. And Mac, if you can just jump on and tell it like you did at the road show, just, and how you then put those buses up.
Yeah, Coach Barry, thanks for asking that question. And thanks also for saying that, on the last 30K, a bus could be beneficial because that makes sense. My issue, maybe I've got trust issues. My issue is that I've planned a race specifically for Comrades. You get a cutoff, you get a cutoff, you get a cutoff, you get a cut. So I've planned a race according to those cutoffs. If a bus is going to go past me at such a speed that I can still make time and not be cut off, why jump on? Is my question to myself. Like, why would I panic to jump on just so that I can, I don't know, make an extra 10 minutes when I know I've still got 60 Ks down the line? Because the buses actually passed me at Cato Manor up towards Bothers Hill. That's when they passed me. So I was like, okay. So they're obviously doing what, you would call a positive split. They run fast and they go slower at the end. Good for them. So, I do think it's as you said, it might help to take the thinking out of it. I just, maybe I'm a control freak. I like having that little bit of control, knowing that I need to get here by this time, and it gives me a sufficient time to get to the next stage. So what happened with me with it was Deloitte. I ran my plan, and my plan said take it easy for 10 to 15, and then increase pace for another 10 to 15, and then slow down for the last one. So then I started increasing my pace. I was comfortable, and then I got to the bus, and I thought, "Oof, Mac, don't be arrogant. Don't go past them. Just stick with them." So I stuck with them. The problem was I stuck with them, and then they started walking, and I was like, "What's going on here?" And I was like, "Okay, let me just follow their thing, mob." And this completely messed with my "I'm supposed to be going faster" situation. So when they started going up, I couldn't get myself to go at the pace that they were going at to go up. I struggled, and I think it's got to do maybe with the mental mixed in with me aborting my mission. Yeah,
and I think not being used to running in that way,
correct.
and that's where I go to speak to the bus driver, figure it out. Because if you've been doing a run 3 minutes, walk 1 minute strategy through your training, and the bus driver comes in and goes, "We're going to go 6 kilometers 1 minute," or "We're going to do a 5K run and a 2-minute walk," and suddenly everything you're doing is out of sync. So just make sure that the goals are aligned, that they're not going to try and catch up the 10 minutes you're going to lose at the start going through halfway. So yeah, they're useful. They've got their pros, they've got their cons, but just make sure you know what you're getting yourself into.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you guys for that. Just a couple of resources for you guys. Comrades.com, obviously training plans available there, and then coachperry.com, as Mac had mentioned, joining the platform and killing his running thereafter. So yeah, those are some resources for you. And just to mention this as well, we're having a dinner. If you want to come have dinner with the Coach Perry team, we're hosting a dinner on the Friday night before Comrades. I'm going to pop a little link up on the screen now. Sorry, there we go. So if you're keen to come have dinner with us the night before, I promise obviously it won't be a late one. We know that you guys are running a big race the next day. Just have a bit of a chat and some dinner. Click on that link that's on screen now, and you can
I said
join
we never
us.
do that.
Sorry? It's not the night before. Oh, it's on the night. I was going to say, sure. That's yeah. We cognizant of people's time. Sorry. So the 9th of June. Thank you, Linz. So the Friday night before the race. So if you guys are keen, click on that link. Join us. That'd be really, really cool. Would look forward to that. I'm a fan of food, so that is cool. Linz, a few people have been asking. I know I don't want to get into the specifics of this, but a couple of people were asking around their long run. And the average pace. Do you work out your predicted race time from that long run? Some of them were running a lot slower in their long run. Was that something to be concerned about? How do you take your lessons from your long run into race day?
Yeah, so we don't use the long run. The long run should be based on what our goal time is for Comrades. So I mean, it's that kite, I guess, is flown for most, but it's a test run, and Comrades is the one race where almost everyone runs slower as their Comrades race pace than they do in training. So the Comrades long run is meant to be one of those runs where you actually do run at Comrades race pace. And I actually worked that out today for all the medals. So I'm gonna read that average, not for all the medals, for all the pacing charts. I'm gonna read you out those average paces so that you have a good idea. I'll start it at. I'll do the medals, otherwise it'll take too long. But a silver medal with the new 87.7 Ks is a 5:07 per kilometer. A silver and a Isabel Roch Kelly, so they're the same time. A sub 9 hour is a 6:08 average. A sub 11 is a 7:27 per kilometer average, and your finishing average is 8:07. Now those average paces that I've given you actually include the time that you've lost. So the actual time, actual average pace to finish Comrades with 87.7 is like 8:13, I think. But then you have to run quicker to get yourself to the finish, and you have to make up the stagger, or make up the stagger. You have to make up that last 10 minutes by 80 kilometers. So it's probably a fraction faster than 8:07 to make sure that you do get through there. It's probably 8:06 to make sure that you get through that cutoff point. But that just gives you an idea of the average time that you need to run. So just back to how do we work it out? So the most accurate time and time again is if you've run your qualifying time to the best of your ability, pretty much 2.5 times your marathon time gives you a really good idea of what your Comrades ability is. And this year, you can probably go minus 10 minutes. So because of the shorter Comrades, you have the opportunity to be 10 to 15 minutes. That 2.5 times marathon time has stood the test of time. But of course, the down run's always been between 89 and just over 90. So you now get 10 to 15 minutes bonus.
Awesome, good stuff. Yeah, Linz, I think that's pretty much all the questions that have been answered in and around what many other people have asked in different ways. Yeah, I think we can call it there. Just want to say thanks so much to the panel, to Sifiso as always, giving us some insights on race day, and to Mac for sharing his experience, which was really, really cool to see and hear. So thank you to the both of you for sharing your experiences and being here tonight. And then, yeah, Linz, parting shot from you. Just
yeah,
it's
ridiculous how excited I'm getting so close to, a month. It feels like it's tomorrow. And just, I know a lot of people are nervous. We had a lot of novices today, so you haven't been through this before. But yeah, don't get caught up on Strava. Don't get worried about what other people are doing. Stick to the task. Those plans have worked for thousands of runners. And my final parting shot is start injury free. So if there's something that's bugging you now, sort it out. If you start pain free, injury free, you are increasing your chances of finishing by like 70%. So start injury free.
Yeah. Love that. Thank you, Linz. The last webinar coming up on the 24th of May. If you've registered for this one, you will get the reminders coming up for you. If you have friends who want to join, send them the registration links as well. Hopefully see you guys at the Comrades and Coach Perry dinner on the Friday the 9th. From my side, it was great to be here again. Maybe a parting shot from me is more is not better. Let's get to the race line or the start line injury-free, as Lindsay says, and as fresh as possible. So I kind of like my steak slightly undercooked. If you're slightly undercooked but you're fresh, that's the way to go. So yeah, don't get caught up with Strava like Lindsay says. I love that. So look after yourselves. We will see you on the 24th of May. Have an awesome rest of your evening. Thanks, everyone.